Hey guys. Oh, the crew is here to make some noise. Bringing us some of the gear. So I'm smoking a Arturo Fuentes Grand Reserve. Got a good smell, good aroma. All right, guys, I had to come inside. I waited, but these people started working in the middle of the day. They just showed up all of a sudden with all their gear, and they're making a racket. All right, so I got good news about the mechanic on the boat. He finally surfaced, and he said, "Yeah, he's gonna be able to be at the dock to lower the engine. You know what I mean, at the boatyard to lower the engine into the boat and attach it to the base. So now what I have to do is call the yard and see if they do that on Saturday, because I think Saturday they open half a day. I don't know. I gotta touch base with them. So we're almost almost there. So I wanted to make a comment that I think Trump is messing up. You're gonna say, "What do you mean? He's doing good." Yeah, he's doing good. He's doing real good. Where he's messing up is where I wanted the most results. I'm not too concerned about the trade. I'm not too concerned about the tariffs, even though they're important. That wasn't my main concern. I wasn't concerned about the other stuff. The main thing that he needed to do, he started doing it, but I think some people are pressuring him to start trade talks with China. And I don't think that's a good idea. And I'll explain why. China right now, it's choking, meaning there's no trade. Containers are full, they're waiting on their yards, their ships are parked there, nothing is moving. People, they haven't been paid, the factories are closed, a lot of people are protesting. Just remember, there's a billion, more than a billion Chinese, and all of them live on the sale of goods. They have import export businesses, they have their stores, they're making money. But when that money stops, the dragon starts choking. And I'm hoping that Trump does not do a deal, and I'll tell you why. What do you need to fight a war? Money, and lots of it. As long as China is not making money and producing things and selling it to us, we're the major market. It's not Brazil, it's not Europe, it's not, Africa. It's us. We're buying more than 80% of their goods. Uh, if he doesn't have that income coming in, there's no invasion of Taiwan. Get it? He is preventing a war, but without firing a single shot. Just choking the dragon. Let the dragon die. And when people get fed up, and they will, if it keeps going the way it was, I think I saw the beginning of a video. I didn't click into it because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear good news about having a deal with China. That's the wrong thing to do. You people in business are only thinking about the profits. I understand that. I understand that. But if you can hang on a little longer, a few more months, 6 months at the most, the Communist Party will collapse because people are going to rise up and they're going to get rid of that guy. with the idea, Qing, they're going to get rid of Jinping, or whatever his name is, the idea of invading Taiwan because they want the whole country to be Chinese, and that's bullshit. He wants Taiwan because Taiwan makes the most high technology and very hard to make, and the only place that makes military chips for the American military and computers and everything else. That's what he wants. If Taiwan was a agricultural society, if everybody planting lettuces and carrots and whatever, he wouldn't give a crap about Taiwan. He said, "No, don't care." But why does he want Taiwan? For the same reason he wanted Hong Kong. Hong Kong was the center of commerce for China, and they took it over because they wanted to learn. They wanted to see how is it that they make money, and how is it that they have all these deals and stuff. When they took over Hong Kong, because my belief is that the British had a 99-year lease, I said, you know what, we're going to keep Hong Kong. They should have kept it, because now the Chinese got greedy. They're making a lot of money. And where they're getting this money from is from us buying their goods. I'm one of them included. And they're building up their military with our purchases. We're feeding the dragon. And when the dragon is ready to strike, they're going to launch an invasion against Taiwan, and a lot of people are going to die on both sides, including ours, because we have to go over there and help them prevent the invasion. And it's going to be a freaking huge war that we're going to fight for no reason. If we just keep the dragon down, and they'll have no money for an invasion. Even the military will rebel and say, hey, we haven't gotten paid in months. I gotta send money to my family, and etc. etc. You have to keep them down so there's no war. That was what I was hoping for. And we have to bite the bullet, slow down on the purchases, and then Trump say, okay, we're going to allow anything under $800 to keep the goods coming in, because a lot of the stuff that most people buy are probably under that price. I buy things for boats and stuff, and maybe they come from there. I don't know. I just bought a bilge pump. I got to see if it's made in China. Probably is, because all the companies moved over there. So now, Apple, I think, announced that they're moving to India. And there's some other high-tech companies that are moving to India. So what the Chinese do? They started instigating and causing problems with Pakistan, to attack India as revenge, getting even. The Chinese, as long as they're making a lot of money and they spend it all on cities that are empties, they're cities, not just one, a few, not 10, 15 buildings, cities that they built. They built roads. They did pretty good infrastructure, but the people themselves don't have the income to live in those condos and to use all these roads. They have cars, but when the money stops coming in, everything dies. Everything goes down the drain. And China was getting a lot of that money for the military. That's why they have the biggest army and they got the biggest navy. And that's why now they got a chip on their shoulder and they're going to take on the world. If Trump can hang on and not do a deal with them, because the thing is that the Chinese economy is not based on consumption, it's based on sales. If they're not selling because of the tariffs and they're not shipping, they're not making money. The people there don't have money to buy the goods. All the goods are made to be sold here where the money is and where people buy, and they sell them for a lot more money than what they're worth, even though they're still cheap. But the people over there are getting pennies on the dollar for their labor. They got slave camp up in the north. They got that Muslim area. I forgot the name. I can't pronounce the name. And they got over 1 million people. And they're having babies with the women, so the women have Chinese kids, and they learn the Chinese culture, and they learn the Chinese language, and they wanna delete and remove that Muslim area, that they haven't bothered anybody. They haven't attacked anybody. They're not radicals or anything. It's just Muslim people living in peace, and the Chinese took it over, and they're using them as a slave force, as a workforce, making pennies. 15 cents an hour or maybe less. And then getting the doctrine, and they're getting brainwashed. And, that's what China is doing. They're getting into Africa, and then that. If we stop buying their goods, and I know it's hard to do because everything is made there, but the company has to leave and come back here. I don't care where they go. I don't care if they go to Canada, Mexico, Vietnam. I don't care, as long as they leave China. If China starts losing money, they're not going to fight a war. They are not going to fight a war because they know they need a lot of money. I just heard the Indian Prime Minister, he said that to fight a war with Pakistan for, I think he said a week or a month, not sure now, he says it will cost $10 billion. Even though a month, $10 billion for a month, that's a lot of money. So the Chinese need money to fight a war. There's no money coming in because they're not selling anything because of the tariffs. And that's what Trump was doing. But he's getting pressured from who knows who, the left or the right, the center, who knows. Oh, we gotta break, we're losing businesses over here. We're not losing businesses. They're getting tight, but they have to hang on. And the government here has the money to say, okay, I'm going to send you guys a check because you're having a tough time. We're going to help you with the overhead and stuff like that. But we need to keep the dragon down. Choke the dragon until he passes away. And if that happens, if the Communist Party dissolves because of a revolution in China, Trump will be known as the best president in history. From the beginning to the end. He would have removed the biggest communist country in the world. Venezuela, it's nothing. Cuba, it's nothing. It's just a bug. China is the dragon. If you kill that dragon, man, he's going to be famous. And he's messing up because I think they're talking deal. Now the Chinese, oh no, let's sit down, let's talk. I said, no, I got no time now. I'm dealing with Russia. We'll see you next time. We'll deal with you later, much later, and prolong it, stretch it out. That's what he needs to do. But I think he's getting pressure, and he's gonna say, this is what I'm gonna do, so they cannot let the Chinese off the hook. China wants to take over the freaking world, at least Asia. All they're fighting for the the South China Seas. They're fighting there. they wanna push Vietnam and Philippines and Malaysia, and they want to push them around. They want to take over the whole area and fish the whole area. They don't want nobody else to be fishing in that area. And if they find oil in that area and whatever, they want to take over that area. China wants to replace the currency. I don't think they're going to be able to replace the currency of in Asia and all the Asiatic countries with their currency, the yuan, I think it's called. So the yen is Japanese, the yuan is Chinese. I think it's called pronounced yuan. And then they want to take over that area and be like a world power. Okay, you want to be a world power, fine, but you have to do it democratically, not with the military. Because it's not a world power; it's going to be a world tyranny. So it's a different thing. The United States is a world power, but it's democratic. I know there's a lot of under the table stuff, but anyways, and then another thing you got to realize: if China goes to war against Taiwan, they're not coming alone. I hope you know that. Who do you think they're going to hire? The little nutty rocket man in Korea. They're going to call him up and say, hey, come in with us and start launching rockets to keep the Americans busy while we jump Taiwan and invade. Think of that. And what has Korea been wanting to do? That they keep boasting they have an intercontinental missile that they can reach the United States. We're going to start having rockets landing on the West Coast. Think about that. China is not going to do this alone. They've been launching rockets over Japan a bunch of times for the past few years. And they're going to say, we're going to hit Japan because Americans have a bunch of bases in Japan. And then we're going to start launching to Hawaii. Then we're going to launch to San Diego where the Navy is. And then we're going to launch up and down the coast of the United States. So China is not jumping in alone. They're not that stupid. They're going to bring Korea and name the Korean tyrant. He's nutty. He's cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, this guy. So think about that. It's not going to be China alone because it has gone to their head because of the money they're coming in. They're getting billions. So now we're recouping some of those billions. According to Trump, we're getting $2 billion a day. They're losing $2 billion a day. But $2 billion a day for a debt that we have that's, what is it, 20 trillion? I think it was 20 trillion already dollars that we owe to the banks, and the Chinese have bought some of that. I believe Japan has the major debt that they bought, but the Chinese have a good portion of it, and that's how they bought the debt, because we're giving them the money with the purchases. They need to forget about Taiwan. Forget about the South China Seas, because they're kind of pushing people around. Japan is ready getting fed up with the Chinese because they want to take everything. Like the Japanese did in Second World War. They completely controlled the whole area because it has a lot of oil, it has a lot of minerals and everything, and they wanted those resources. And China want to do the same thing. So they have a bigger economy than Russia. The military is a paper tiger. They have lost over 10,000 tanks with the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians are fighting with toys, little drones launching bombs and whatever. That's very smart. They have those remote control electric boats, and they're sending rockets, and they already sunk a bunch of ships. They're not easy to be pushed around. So Russia, though, I'm not worried about Russia. I'm worried about China. China is the danger to the world, not Russia. Putin is kind of messing up. He needs to be removed also and get somebody that's reasonable there in that position. But China, it's like, we want Taiwan, we want Taiwan, we want Taiwan, and the Taiwanese are saying, no, we don't want to be in the communist regime. We don't want to be controlled by you guys. They're Chinese, but they're the other type of Chinese. The decent Chinese. They're not the slave drivers. But if he starts backing up, okay, we're going to deal, and we're going to do this and that, and we're going to be equal 100%, tariffs, that doesn't help. It helps as far as trade, but it doesn't help as far as the war that's coming. China is on the verge of jumping Taiwan, and then here we go again. Another war has nothing to do with us. The same thing, there was a war in Vietnam, and another thing, a war in Korea that had nothing to do with us. Why are we sending our guys over there and getting slaughtered and getting killed? Same thing that happened in Iraq, same thing, all these places. We don't need to get involved in everybody's war. But the military industry here wants war because they make billions of dollars selling their goodies. Hey, we got a new rocket, and we got a new submarine, and we got a new, and they want to use it in those theaters that we have nothing to do with. So, yeah, you want to help the Taiwanese, but the best way is the way that Trump was doing it. Choke them with tariffs. Kill the income. Kill the dragon. That's what I was hoping for. And I don't know. He already got the Panama Canal back. Trump talked to a company, I think it was BlackRock, and said, hey, why don't you go over there and buy them off? And they bought the bases, those docks. They're not bases, but they could be converted into bases, military bases. They bought the docks, they bought the bridges, and got them out. And that's how you do it. With business, not with guns. Nobody got hurt. Nobody fired a shot. He is smart, you know, but don't don't remove the tariffs. Don't make it easier on them. Don't make it easy. Choke them, kill them, get rid of them, get rid of the communists. That's the best thing he could do for the world. And then you deal with the other government that comes in, that it's a more modern thinking. You know, forget this freaking doctrine and communism and socialism and crap that hasn't worked anywhere in the world. It just ruins countries and kills millions of people. It has ruined my country, has ruined Venezuela, has ruined the Chinese people over there. They don't like what they have. They're fed up and they're disgusted with the whole thing. Same thing with North Korea. Those people are eating dirt. Communist Chinese have to be removed from power without firing a shot, and this is the best way to do it. Kill their income. Let them go bankrupt. And then we'll no threat of war from none of these freaking assholes. I saw a video that some girl was, that she escaped. She came over and said that they saw some soldiers killing rabbits in the field so they can eat. They had a post somewhere and they weren't getting any supplies, and they had to go in the field and find animals so they can kill and eat. That's North Korea. And a lot of people are just chewing on grass. You know, that's what communism does to the people. You make war because you have the money. If you don't have the money, you're gonna be throwing stones if you still want to fight. But you're not gonna have the weaponry. You gotta kill the funds, and who suffers? Everybody else. The North Koreans are suffering. The Venezuelans are suffering. You know, everybody's got the boot on their neck. In Cuba, you can't fight. You can't have a revolution because there's no guns. The guns are buried in underground bases, and nobody knows where they're at. They're in the country somewhere. I mean, so you gotta cut the funds to the Chinese so there's no war in Taiwan. Period. They're really looking at Ukraine and they're saying, hey, it's not as easy as we thought, because they thought Russia was going to roll right over them. They started in the winter because the Russians like to fight in the cold. Don't ask me why. I guess because it makes it difficult to the other people, but the other people are from the same type of weather. They know how to fight in the cold. And they're getting their ass kicked every day. But why are they fighting? Because Russia attacked. Same thing's going to happen in Taiwan. Taiwan gets jumped by China. We're going to have to start giving him stuff. They already have a lot of stuff, but we're going to have to keep giving him more and more and more. And there's another big fucking war. I'm sorry for my French. The thing is that before that happens, because when it happens, how are you going to stop it then? It's going to continue. Like an old Indian chief said, it's hard to put the rifle down once you picked it up. And that's very true what he said, because once the war starts, unless there are some talks, it's hard to put it down. And they're going to keep fighting. So to prevent a war, the best thing is cut the funds. Cut the funds with the tariffs. You know, don't give them any money. Don't let them get out of the hole. That's how you win the war. Cut the funds. No money. No money, no war. Simple. Not one bullet fired. That's the way that it should be done. And that's the way I thought Trump had the idea of doing it. But now he's getting pressure from, I guess, commerce, saying, hey, you know, the farmers are not selling grain, and China used to buy a lot, and, you know, we're not selling all these goods that China can't produce, you know, because China's got a lot of desert. I don't know if they have a lot of land for growing food for over 1 billion people, that they have to eat at least twice a day. I think they eat once in the country. They probably eat once a day. And they're only showing you the lights and the cities, and oh, everybody's nice and everybody's good. Yeah, but the rest of the country is not doing that well. You know, all kind of weird animals eat bats and stuff. I say, wait a minute, they're eating bats? That's something that cavemen will be eating, not a modern country. I mean, if you look at China, it looks like Disneyland. It's got buildings with lights and, bridges and everything. Why are they eating bats? Why don't they buy cattle, raise cattle, and have steak and, ground beef and sausage, whatever? Why don't they buy pigs? Because the desert doesn't maintain that kind of life. They have this huge northern desert, and apparently they don't have enough. I'm not an expert, but I'm kind of trying to put things together. Why are they eating bats? Why are they killing bears and eating bugs and things like that? Because they don't have those animals, the sheep, and there's some villages that have goats and stuff, but not enough to maintain a 1.5 billion people. That's a lot of mouths to feed. And according to history, China has had 12 famines in their history. Why? There's never been a famine here. Why? Because the people that came here at the beginning, they started bringing in the cattle, and they're bringing in the pigs and the sheep and the goats and everything else, and they raise their animals, and they have the chickens and the goat ducks and the turkeys. There were animals to eat, and the land was good for farming. I don't know why China doesn't learn from that and do that, eating bats, and then you have an epidemic that went around the world and it killed a bunch of people. So it's kind of a weird what they did with. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, there's a reason for things. People don't eat weird animals because they like it. It's because there's no food. Why do they start eating all this weird stuff that it causes an epidemic? So and then they have all this money, and what do? Instead of creating farms and producing, food for the people and everything, no, let's buy a bunch of guns and let's make some tanks and ships and submarines and everything. They have a base. They have an underwater base in an island. So the island is like this, and they dug a tunnel. The submarine comes under it and serves as inside. So from the outside, it just looks like a regular island. You fly over, it's an island. But no, that's an underground submarine base. Why are they doing that? Because they're getting ready for war. Why do they have so many weapons? Why do they have so many ships? They got more ships than the United States. The United States, I think, got 269 or something. They got over 300. So they're getting ready for war. So instead of having a war that's going to kill a lot of people, why don't they develop their food industries in their country, so they don't have to have all these famines and people dying of hunger? I mean, 12 famines. That's, and I think it died over 1 million people every time there's a famine. Instead of spending money on weapons and on bullying countries around, pushing countries around, I want Taiwan, and I want this China Sea, and just because it says China Sea doesn't mean it belongs to China. It doesn't belong to you. It's like India saying, "Oh, the Indian Ocean is mine." It's called the Indian Ocean because you're there, and the ocean below it. It's in your immediate area, and the people that are making the maps, they call it the Indian Ocean. It doesn't belong to India. It just belongs to everybody. It's open to the world. You only own a little stretch of coast, like every country does. 12 miles or 20, whatever it is over there, but China wants it all. So to take it away from people, they make weapons, and they're training a huge army that you see those guys marching, and they look like skeletons. They're not getting fed that well, I don't think. So instead of developing their food industries, why do they go the other way? Why do we have these evil maniacs to take over a country and government and come in with this stupid agenda to build up the military because everybody's making money out of death and destruction? There's always Like I said, everything happens for a reason. People make money out of death and destruction. Not the people that die, obviously. There's always somebody that's making the weapon and making money. The people transporting the weapon, they're making money. The people selling the materials to make the weapon, they're making money. Everybody's making money. But then when a war breaks out, who gets it? The person that doesn't make a dime. He's the one that gets it. He gets buried in the rubble. He gets run over and killed. And shot to pieces. There's always some jerk, some a-hole convinces the illiterate population of their country that he's doing great he's going to do great for the country, he's going to do great. And then when he gets in power, everything gets worse. Trump needs to keep those tariffs, keep it high, so they can't do the sales, because they won't make any money. And that's the bottom line. Starve the economy until the regime collapses. That's what Trump should do. That's what he has to do. And then when the people had enough, they'll rise up and topple the regime, because even the military will turn around and go against them. The same thing happened to that Romanian dictator back in the what was it? Early 80s, I think. That people got fed up with him, and his wife, because the wife was very mouthy also. They put him against the wall and shot him. And bingo, everything changed. People were happy. They finally got rid of the tyrant, because he was just living off like a king, and everybody else was suffering. You gotta get rid of those kings. You gotta get rid of the tyrants. And the way to do it is not by us going to war, by the people rising up, and let the people take care of it. A few of them, a lot of them will die, but the military will turn around, because they had enough too. So, China, keep it tight, keep the tariffs high, don't help them. It'll collapse. It will collapse. We just need to hang on, and things will get better. But it needs time for it to happen. All right, guys. I'll see you on the next one.